Just when you think we're going to zig, we zag.
Just when you think we're going to zag, we zog.
We zog.
So anyway, thanks for joining us. For people who are not familiar with the show, what Scott and I try to do a little differently here, we haven't talked about this much, is, we're besties, we're best friends, even though we come from other opposite sides of the political spectrum. I'm the lefty, he's the righty. Although, there's always lots of asterisks with that. That doesn't mean that I'm a Democrat and that he's a Republican.
No.
And so anyway, we try to find some common ground as much as possible. And sometimes that's challenging, as on issues like the Israel-Hamas war. But
that was, honest to goodness, I re-listened to that podcast, and I mean, okay, if we don't praise ourselves, who will?
So true.
But in all seriousness, re-listening to that, we were getting pretty hot and disagree virulently on many aspects of that story.
For sure.
We never started yelling. We never started questioning each other's motives. We never started. We didn't go down dipshit alley and, well, that's because Ted wants to eat babies.
Right.
Right. We just, I think you can have this discussion. I think you can respect each other's opinions and without questioning each other's motives. And that's where this discussion kind of lies. So, and that's why it's so enjoyable. I think that's why we're starting to get some traction. If you have friends, family, pets, have them subscribe and like what you're seeing now and subscribe to the podcast. We'd love that for you. But yeah, that's always been the gist. Ted and I, we had these conversations. We'd call and we'd talk for about an hour and a half about different issues. And we thought, you know what? I mean, we could actually record this and make no money on it that way instead of making no money on it on a phone call.
But they're good conversations. And,
they are.
And so,
Steve
we would still
history.
do this even if we didn't have the podcast. We did do it for years.
Yeah.
And if podcasting goes away, we'll still continue to talk on the phone. You guys just won't be able to hear it.
Podcasting won't go away.
Unless you work at the NSA, in which case then you'll be able to hear it.
Well, and we'll do it from Gitmo, or Ted will be in Gitmo. Where do you think they put me? Would I be in like Djibouti or?
I think
you're definitely Gitmo
El Salvador. I think El Salvador.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, Seaside. Okay. Terrorist training.
Seaside. Did you say Seaside?
It's CECOT, right? Seacot, I think it's called.
Oh, I like Seaside better. It sounds so much nicer.
Seaside is, Guantanamo is Seaside, but it doesn't really help you. All right. So please like and follow, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Appreciate it. We're here. We have a very irregular schedule, so we're not going to pretend like we do have a schedule. We're just sort of here. There's a French expression my mom taught me, like a cheveux sur la soupe, like a hair showing up on your soup. Sometimes we're there, sometimes we're not. All right. Anyway, so Scott, we said we were going to talk about something that you and I met at the apex of print media days back in the late 90s. But since you and I have known each other, the idea that someone would open a new large metro daily newspaper in print is not something we've ever had to talk about or entertain before.
No.
So that's happening now. Should we talk about that, or should we talk about the other thing that you wanted to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the upcoming, the new. I'm not sure when it launches exactly. Is there a date yet?
It's coming out in the spring of 2026.
Wow, and it's the California Post. It's going to be a spinoff of the New York Post, founded by a guy you may have heard of, Alexander Hamilton. And I think there's a huge opportunity here, and we can dovetail into the second topic from here, by the way, because being I am a native Californian. I was born in the first decade of my life spent in San Diego, California. My wife is an Angelino. Mm-hmm. My children wish they were.
They probably do. I was very upset to learn when I was a child that my mother was from France. My father was from Chicago, but inexplicably, I was going to have to be raised south of Dayton, Ohio.
Lucky boy. And now it's considered by many, Ted, to be the Dayton of Ohio to this day.
By many.
But not all.
Even Dayton's not what it used to be.
Oh, God. We've talked about this before. I drove in through Toledo because Janine saw a couple of pictures of Toledo at night along the river. It looks charming.
I was going to say, is there a difference between Toledo at night and the moon at night?
The moon's a lot more interesting. It's probably got more.
Okay, all right.
But Yeah, Dayton's got to be the same thing. Anyway, so they're opening up the California Post. It looks, from what we've read so far, it's going to focus on circulation in San Francisco and Los Angeles.
Based in Los Angeles.
It's going to be
even
based in LA.
Its name. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's room for that. Listen, I worked in Republican politics in California before I became an editorial cartoonist.
We should also talk about the format, right? So it's a tabloid.
It's a tab, which is not really well known. Not well known.
To my knowledge, Los Angeles hasn't had a tabloid, if ever, not in a very long time.
I don't think it ever had. Well, it's not that kind of. It's a obviously a commuter city. If you've ever been on the freeways, you know.
But it's not a mass transit commuter city,
right?
Well, it hasn't been since the 30s, right? Or 40s.
Right, when the tire companies actually shut down the subway. My mother was born and raised in L.A. and used to take the rail down from streetcars from Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, where she lived, to San Pedro and the harbor community. That sounds awesome, without having to drive down the 110 or the Harbor Freeway or the 5, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, but the tire companies are the ones that really pushed hard to get rid of that kind of mass transit, so people would, have the freedom of their cars. Wink, wink.
That's right. And many tires.
Yes. So the California Post, a brand new tabloid. It's going to obviously run right.
Have exactly the same appearance, at least so far as we can tell, as the New York Post.
Right. And if you're familiar with the Post,
and the same politics.
Yes, Rupert Murdoch Republicans, probably more pro-Trump than any other publication. I think there's a market for this, Ted. I really, truly do. I think that people in California have been fed the lefty Democratic bullshittery that has led to a great state. And if you've ever spent any time in California, it's amazing. It's amazing. Listen, here, let me describe one of the best days I ever had there. Went skiing with a friend of mine early in the morning up in the mountains, hopped in the car around 1, got down and was able to go to the beach and surf that afternoon. That's the kind of awesomeness that California offers. And the politics that have permeated that state for years are totally fucking it up. You can't walk down San Francisco streets because there's human feces everywhere, not to mention the homeless. Los Angeles, the exact same way. If you make any kind of living, you're taxed to within an inch of your life without the infrastructure to really, say, listen, there's places in Scandinavia where they tax you heavily, but you get stuff,
Right. Free college.
Yeah.
Free
so
healthcare.
California doesn't get any of that. In fact, 7%, this statistic is a little old. It's probably about 5 years old, Ted, but about 5 years ago, 7% of students attending California state universities were from California. I mean, that's bullshit.
Yeah, that's astonishing. Well, that's like when I learned that 37% of students at Harvard are international students.
Well,
now,
because
when you and I went to college, Scott, there were
yeah.
international students, but they were a tiny, it was like 2 or 3% of the student body, maybe.
Right. Well, but then and I know you're going to be shocked. Ted, are you sitting down?
I am, as you can tell.
Thank God.
What the fuck else am I ever doing?
Money drove that question because because international students pay not just full tuition, but additional international tuition. So, they make bank on those guys.
Yeah, they don't get any financial aid or anything like that.
No.
All right, so let's talk about the California Post. It's going to be led by editor-in-chief Nick Papps. He's an Aussie from NewsCorp. He'll be reporting to the New York Post's editor-in-chief, Keith Poole, which is a little odd. I don't know how that works, given the geography and the time difference. They say they want to be kind of like wild and crazy. And they want to focus on LA's status as a hub for entertainment, AI, advanced manufacturing, and sports. I think that's all really smart, as well as the upcoming 2028 LA Olympics. And so basically, what I smell first and foremost is blood in the water. And of course, at my former employer, the LA Times, founded in 1881, now clearly at death's door. The Dr. Pat Soon-Chiang, the current owner, who has owned the place for the last 8 years, had promised, like Hitler, a 1,000-year Reich over there. He seriously had a 100-year plan for it. I'm like, are you going to live 100 years? You're in your 60s. But anyway, he was like, oh, did I say 100 years? I meant 8. So basically, he got bored with it. He couldn't figure out how to fix it up.
Which is exactly what I said would happen.
Tried to sell it to everybody. Clovis finally said no, and that was the last straw. Clovis is my cat.
Clovis says no.
Well, Clovis he drives a hard bargain. So anyway, that was it. And so now he's saying, we'll do an IPO. It'll be as successful as the WeWork IPO. So that's it. And so basically the LA Times is not going to launch. They're going to go out of business within a year or two, almost certainly.
I don't know. Well, no, I disagree with you.
Or they'll become a shadow of its.
Yes, well, it already is.
Right. It'll
Ted,
become
it's in El Segundo.
Shadow. Right.
Its offices are in friggin' El Segundo. Now, those of you who may not know what El Segundo is, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to the word El Segundo. It sounds like, Ted, I went down, I was stupid, I wasn't thinking, I went and brushed my teeth with the water, and I came down with El Segundo. I mean, that's what it sounds like. And you know what? That's not wrong.
Does it literally mean, is it Spanish for the number 2?
I don't.
It might be.
It could be. Who knows? Who cares? That's where the LA Times is now, to Ted's point.
The reason I was making that noise is it's literally on the flight path.
Oh, yeah.
The planes come into LAX a couple hundred feet above it. In the end, what we'll do in the LA Times is a Boeing plane crashing into.
Just something, a metaphor. The thing that Ted hates most in editorial cartooning will be the thing that destroys the thing that he hates most.
It's true. So I think if it were, I'm gonna say, Scott, what do you think? I don't think if the LA Times were in such deep shit that this would be in the works.
Oh gosh, no. If the Daily Times had done what, I don't know, Ted Rall and Scott Stantis said the LA Times should do. It's in a position to cover, for instance, an industry which is the number one export of the United States of America, the biggest economy on the planet. Put those two pieces of information together, but they still don't cover entertainment any better than the Dayton Daily News. I mean, no offense to Dayton, but they just don't cover it. And it should have been covered like business, personalities, have a page dedicated to the social and soirees they have every night in Hollywood. And they didn't do it. And they lost. And Dr. Pat comes in there and thinks that, like every friggin' billionaire, they think they're geniuses. They're not. They're not even really billionaires if you deconstruct what they are. But that's another podcast. He thought he could come in and fix it, that the people who ran newspapers were idiots and they didn't know what they were. Well, that's not untrue. But this could have been fixed years ago. And now that you're right, Ted, the LA Times is on the ropes. It won't go away. It's a strong brand. It'll be around for another decade or so. And what guys, maybe they'll go digital. And so they'll have a newsroom of 7, junior college graduates.
Yeah, I was going to say, they fired in 2023, 74 people. In 2024, they fired 115.
Jesus.
Apparently they're going to, just to put this into perspective, when I started there in 2015, they had 1,400 employees. By the time I left in 2020, sorry, that's not right. In 2009, when I started, they had 1,400. In 2015, they were already down to 800. Then by the time Dr. Pat bought it, they were down to 400. Which means now we're probably talking about roughly 175 is left.
Oh, maybe. And that's maybe. Don't forget that's not all reporters, by the way. That's
right,
other
that's
staff.
Everywhere.
That's the whole Hee Haw gang, and it's astounding to me.
By the way, the other papers are also in deep shit there. We don't talk about that, but like the LA Weekly is pretty much finished. And there's even a lot of newspaper towns have started news websites founded by former major newspaper employees, and the one in LA is called LAist, LAIST, and I don't really know the name's dumb, but anyway, the point is they've had massive layoffs as well, and they're in deep shit too. So basically, there's a massive vacuum in the LA area.
There are suburban papers. They were picked up by Digital First, which was the weirdo owner of the Denver Post at the time, and they have a ring of suburban papers which are doing well. They do pretty well. I actually subscribe to one because, as I mentioned earlier, my wife is from the South Bay of Los Angeles, and so we subscribe to that newspaper, and it's pretty good. they cover that area well, but it's a small, scrappy, staff. You don't get the, oh my gosh, the zoning board is half of the members are getting kickbacks from these developers, all things like that. But you won't, I love that. Wandon, you're right. A newspaper in the digital age, a print edition. The reason I mentioned all that stuff earlier about the politics of the place, Ted, was not to go on in some weirdo conservative rant, but just to say that I believe there's a market for conservative or at least alternative thinking than to the dominant paradigm that really does hold sway in the Golden State. You have
there's a lot of conservatives there. I mean, even though the Republican Party is pretty much dead, that Eastern California that's Trump. That's Republican.
Look at the map. Look at the electoral map.
Central California, and even I'll remind people that even in San Francisco, liberal San Francisco, they had a former police chief, Chief Jordan, who became the mayor, Frank Jordan of San Francisco, not that long ago. It's had Republican governors who were quite successful, like Schwarzenegger. He was definitely a well-received governor. Duke Majan, right before that.
George Duke Majan was kind of he was sort of a lumpy, mainstream Republican of the
Reaganite,
time.
Kind of.
Pete Wilson, former mayor of San Diego, became governor and then became a U.S. senator.
It's unfair to think of it as like a seething pile of Berkeley. Even Berkeley is more conservative than you think. I mean, the board of the UC Regents are a bunch of conservatives, small c and big C. I'm trying to say there's a lot of, whether you want to say from my point of view, reactionaries or conservatives, whatever. The point is that California is not a politically homogenous state.
No, but you tend to think of the California Republicans are now very much Christian nationalists have been taken over the party, so they're not electable in a statewide race. They're just not. But there are Republican ideas and ideals that I think would work very, very well. If you get away from the MAGA stuff, if you get away from the anti-gay marriage, anti-gay stuff, if you get away from the banning abortion stuff, a Republican, a libertarian Republican, which is what I am or was, I think would do quite well. But here, can we get into the nuts and bolts real?
I was just going to ask you to do that. Let's talk about the execution. What we can glean. We agree that theoretically, a new newspaper can work in California. Let's tell the truth here. This is really an LA paper. San Francisco is going to be an afterthought.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and they're very different cities. And by the way, they hate each other. No mayor of Los Angeles has ever been elected governor of California. They've run, but they've never won.
San Francisco is a little town compared to LA. LA is a real city. San Francisco, the streets roll up at 9:00 at night. It's small, man. It's like
not in the Castro district.
Small. No, that's where you hang out. But for me.
It's not true, but I'll never forget my first trip to San Francisco ever. I was still in college, and my friend had friends up there, and so we ended up in the Castro for some reason, or walking through it, and that was a revelation. That wasn't the reason, but it was a revelation I had not seen.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
No, it was. No, it truly was.
Hey, I don't judge.
But to get to Ted's point, to finish your point, Ted, that it's going to be an LA paper.
It'll be an LA paper. And so look, already, I'm not the only person. I thought this immediately. The name does not exactly roll off the tongue. First of all, there's no other paper there are other papers that are named after states, like your former employer, the Arizona Republic, but it's really just the Phoenix paper. There's the Arkansas Gazette, but it's really the Little Rock paper. There's no real actual paper that purports to cover an entire state, much less a state as big as California. I think Los Angeles Post or LA Post rolls off the tongue a lot better than California. I think it smells a little bit like designed by committee. Also, I want to talk about the design aesthetic. You and I talked about this a little bit offline, but getting back to Arizona, the Phoenix New Times was the flagship paper of the old New Times alt weeklies chain, which owned a lot of papers. I think it owned 70 or 80 alt weeklies around the country. It was a monster, and it ultimately purchased the Village Voice, my former paper. And basically, to save money, they were like, oh, we can find synergies. We have all these different newsrooms. Why do we have all these different newsrooms? Why don't we have some, repurpose some of the content from one paper and use it for other papers? Hell, let's have the design all be run out of the same place instead of having separate art directors, separate design directors. Let's have the San Francisco Weekly look exactly like the Boston Phoenix, look exactly like the Village Voice, and so on. This seems to be like a replica of that model, albeit just obviously just cut and paste. But the aesthetics of the California Post are identical to the New York Post, and I don't think that makes sense. I don't think it's respectful to Los Angeles, which is, having worked in that media market in radio and in print for many years. That is, Los Angeles is a really important and cool media city in its own right. And the people there are not going to want to think that they're, hey, look, we're getting a New York edition, a California edition of a New York paper. They're going to want their own thing, their own way. It can be conservative. It can be owned by Murdoch, but it should have LA flavor. Otherwise, I think it's not going to work. Angelenos won't take to it.
I'm going to go even deeper into this real quick and just say that you and I talked about, as you mentioned, we talked about yesterday on the phone, looking at what they had posted online, what their intentions are. It looks like what we call a wrap, which is the cover, the back cover, the first 4 to 8 pages are going to be generated in Los Angeles, but the rest of it's just going to be what was in the New York Post.
Right,
well,
repurposed.
Yeah. So do they really give a shit about, some socialite in Manhattan? I mean, they don't.
Or even the New York mayor's race.
Which will be heavily
covered.
Of
a national story as it is.
Exactly. So my guess is if that's the direction they go, if they don't put the resources into it they need to actually cover California, well, then it's just going to be another swing and a miss in my opinion. And I've seen, I've been watching this industry. I've been in it for 45 plus years. Yeah. And so I've seen this kind of thing before. And didn't for instance, Newsday out on Long Island try a Manhattan edition?
Yeah, it was
New York Newsday.
It was all 5 boroughs. It was New York Newsday.
Yeah, clever name. And that was a failure because it was a wrap. They had the Metro, the city edition, which, so the cover is the mayor of New York is battling rats. But the inside would be, here's what's happening in the Hamptons.
Right.
Nobody.
And also, it's interesting because also the aesthetics didn't make sense, right? Like Newsday, is a Long Island newspaper. It's unique, really, in the United States in that it's a paper that covers and is distributed through a vast swath of where millions of people live, but it's all suburbia. I mean, there's only one city on Long Island, Hempstead. Everything else is towns and villages. It's true. And Hempstead's not that big. I think so. The point is, it's got maybe 60,000 people. So it's millions and millions of people all living in the burbs, and it has a suburban aesthetic. New York is a gritty city, and it wants either a gritty tabloid aesthetic like the New York Daily News or the New York Post, or it wants an intellectual upscale like New York Observer, New York Times, Wall Street Journal look. That's kind of the dividing here. Like we have working class and we have intellectuals and we have financiers. That was like neither beast nor fowl. We ain't got no suburbs here. So it's like, that just didn't work.
Yeah. So this, I'm not sure. Like I said, if they just think that they can put a pretty wrapper on it, that's not that. And it's a daily that will not work. But getting back to, what I was spewing earlier about the liberal nature of the politics there and how it really has not boded well for the Democratic Party in terms of results, and people are getting fed up. There's a real market for it, Ted, and I think that's where the Murdochs, who aren't stupid people, don't want to flush their money down the crapper, are looking and saying there's something there. There's a market there that will eat this up.
Although they do have a history also. The New York Post has a history of experimenting and then backing away. It is a Monday through Friday paper, or maybe it's Monday through Saturday now. But anyway, they introduced a weekend edition a while back. which is, full, like a Sunday paper with, with full color comics on the outside, inserts, the whole 9 yards. The New York Times has one, of course, of the most famous Sunday edition in the country, but so does the New York Daily News. It has a vibrant Sunday edition. The Post tried Sunday. They did it for a blink of an eye, and then they were like, yeah, this isn't taking, fuck it. So they could pull the plug pretty quickly. If they have deep pockets, but they tend not to use them.
Well, let's also talk to our profession very quickly, if we may. The New York Post, I go on a thing called Press. It used to be called Press Display. Now it's called Press Reader. I can look at the print editions of many papers around the country. And looking at the New York Post, they run editorial cartoons. However, they run no local cartoons. And they seem to pull from a pool of about 3 or 4 cartoonists. Mike Ramirez, they go to, a conservative, if you just want rubber stamp conservative cartoonist. Gary Varvel, who is very much MAGA. Lisa Benson, who is this kind of innocuous phantom of a cartoonist I'm not even sure actually exists.
Yeah, we actually have a whole theory about this. We could talk about it.
Let's talk. What the hell?
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is editorial cartooning is a very small world, to say the least, right?
Oh yeah,
and getting smaller all the time.
Sure.
I think it's fair to say that if you are a professional cartoonist of any repute, in other words, you work at a paper, well, let's just say of any repute, like you're syndicated, maybe with a short list, maybe you're at a very, very small paper as a freelancer. There's no more than, let's say, 80 or 100 of us.
Oh, I think that's way over the number.
That's what I think. I think there's like 50 or 40. Yeah. If you count all those people, right? If you count big time staffers, there's like 11 in the country.
Or less. Yeah,
or fewer. But there's definitely, so anyway, the point is, in this world, we all know each other. And, we know who everyone is. Everyone's met everyone. Everyone knows everyone. And so there are a few mysteries. There's Sean Delonis, who was at the New York Post for years, and who never came to any of the conventions. Now, I know he exists because he's been interviewed by various media outlets now and then over the years. So
is he still drawing for the Post?
No, he's long gone. He was a medical illustrator and then became a political cartoonist.
But Tony Auth has the same arc.
But nobody knows really who, sort of like where he comes from or why he is doing what he's doing or did what he did. But then there's Lisa Benson. So Lisa Benson, her cartoons are in syndication. You've seen them probably if you look at editorial cartoon roundups. She has a very clean style. She's a conservative. She goes for the joke. And Scott, you and I have communicated with her on the internet. She seems very nice. So
for a bot, no shade.
But okay, I'm just going to put it out there. We have come to suspect that she doesn't exist. And you're going to say, what do you mean by that? And what we mean by that is Google her. There's no video interviews of her talking anywhere. There's no radio interviews of her talking anywhere. I think there might be one print interview, but that's easy to pull off by email. She's never turned up, as to my knowledge, at any convention, any editorial cartooning convention. She's never turned up anywhere. So Lisa, if you exist and you're watching us, please come on the show.
And make us look like idiots.
Make us look like the idiots that we are. But I think I'll say for myself, I think Scott and I'm going to say it for Scott too. I think we are more than 50% convinced, not 100%, more than 50% convinced that there is no such thing as Lisa Benson, and that Lisa Benson is actually a stand-in for some dude who realized many years ago that there are no chicks in editorial cartooning, and that there might be a way this would be a pathway, this would be a lane to break in and make some sales, because editors realize these are all guys. It's if we run a woman, it's going to look better. So it might be a ruse.
I'm thinking, and you and I have talked about this, and I'm not a conspiracy believer, but I do believe
nor am I.
But I think that she is probably more like two or three people.
Really?
One awesome. Of them writes it, the other one draws it.
Right.
Or it could be two or three different people. Who knows? I mean, but the fact is, because look, I mean, you and I do a podcast. I will challenge anyone listening to us now to Google Ted Rall. And there will be pictures, there will be videos, there will be audio files, there will be podcasts, there will be print interviews with pictures of him working. The same holds true for me. It's almost because this is a public.
Speaking of Benson's, right? Like Steve Benson died recently. Same thing. If you Googled him, you'd find thousands of references.
A million references
that are not his cartoons.
And we are public people because we do a public art. So the fact that there are no pictures of Lisa Benson anywhere to be found.
Nope. There's no Lisa Benson controversies where she's interviewed about a controversial cartoon that she did, or issued a statement defending or apologizing for it. Right.
Which I love.
There's no, I mean, we have peers, and also cartoonists can be very controversial in their personal lives. I mean, we had a colleague who was involved in a messy divorce, speaking of the New York Post, that made 2 full pages 2 and 3 in the New York Post. You know who I'm talking about.
No, who's that? What if it was in the Post? You can say. I mean, come on, it was in the newspaper.
That's true, but I don't know if I want to say it.
Okay.
Anyway,
tell me after you go off.
I'll tell you.
I don't remember that.
Okay, I'll tell you. It's Steve Kelly.
Steve Kelly. Yeah, that was weird. That was, yeah.
Okay. And the point is,
that wasn't really a divorce. It was a custody battle.
Okay. All right. Well, it was part of the custody battle is related to a divorce. No,
he wasn't. They weren't married. So.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So anyway, the point is, like, people have controversies, right? You and I have both been personally savagely attacked in the media.
Yeah.
But Lisa,
she's vapor. She's a ghost. She's a phantom. It's so weird. And so that's what leads us to think. And as I mentioned before, I mean, Ted, how many speeches, seriously, in all seriousness, roughly, how many speeches do you think you've given in your career?
80?
Oh, no. Oh, it's far more than that.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about, if I include book signings and stuff, like hundreds.
Well, appearances. Yeah. Just let's say appearances.
Yeah. High schools, colleges. Yeah.
When I was working for the Birmingham News, I gave a speech a week minimum. So that's 52 a year. When I worked at the Chicago Tribune, I spoke once or twice a week. I was on a radio show, our friend Petty Vasquez, a radio show on WGN. I was on television once a week. I mean,
maybe you and I are just media whores.
Oh, there's no question about that.
Lisa Benson's laying low.
Yeah, but my point is, there's no way in God's green earth.
AI cartoonist.
Yeah. If you see her work, you could probably. Hey, listen, we're getting real in this thing. I don't care.
Yeah. Thank you, F. Fogert. I'm going to apply for a job at the LA Post, and I'm going to apply for it. I know that they have a right-wing political orientation, and I'm a left-winger. So my workaround is going to be to suggest that I should do celebrity cartoons and leave.
Hilarious. Yeah.
They could also hire someone else to do politics. There's no reason you can't have 2 cartoonists. Like I said to a guy at the Wall Street Journal a few months ago at a party, he goes, he goes, well, we already have one cartoonist on staff. I'm like, you have more than one writer.
The Wall Street Journal?
Yeah. They have that like salt and pepper guy.
Oh, oh God. Sorry. Yeah. They're gag cartoons. They're bad, They're guy going off to work wearing his fedora. Bad. Okay.
So
high and lowest bad.
So if you know Lisa Benson, let us know.
I thought to end this thought, I thought it would be a fun documentary looking for Lisa Benson.
That would be a fun documentary.
And see if you can actually prove that she exists. And because when we reached out to interview her for a segment, and I was doing a radio show and I reached out to her then as well, the response was very curt and very like, oh, I'm not, she has. And then I asked our former editor at Counterpoint, You're still doing Counterpoint, aren't you, Ted?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I asked Nick Anderson, and his response.
Oh no, I don't do Counterpoint anymore. No, sorry.
Okay,
I thought you were thinking of Thunder Club.
No, Counterpoint, and she she has cancer, or she has some kind of like skin disease. I mean, I've heard 3 or 4 reasons why she doesn't do interviews. It's like, well, how is she still alive? Because
it's also like, okay, so maybe she has a horrible disease now. If so, we're really seriously, we send our sympathies. But that can't have been true 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Right. And the AI stuff didn't exist. Just to your point, to our listeners' point, there's no way they didn't have it back then, but you could do it today.
I'm glad to have cleared the air here, Scott, with this. We didn't know we were going to talk about this, but I'm glad we are, because it's been bothering me. Before I die, I want to know the truth.
Well, she apparently lives in LA, so maybe she's in line to work for the California Post.
Well, let's answer this question, not apropos, but the mention of public art made me think, have you guys thought about doing a show about controversial art, or what makes a particular controversial artwork worthwhile versus unhelpful? Well, I've never done a controversial cartoon, so I'll.
You're barking up the wrong tree here, buddy. Yeah, I've
totally teasing.
That got me, threats to my life, and had my family had to be protected by police officers. I think public art. I love public art. Living in Chicago for all those years, living and working there, they have some of the best. I mean, you're walking down the street. I didn't know this existed, Ted. I mean, I knew they had the Picasso in Daley Plaza, but I'm walking down the street, and all of a sudden there's a mosaic mural on the kind of a block of it, and I'm going, oh, that looks interesting. I stepped down there. It's a Chagall. He had done, but so that's the kind of stuff you run into in Chicago all the time. And a lot of cities have fun stuff. I think the Denver Public Library had a great piece of a bear. It's a sculpture of a bear looking in its third floor, like the second or third floor window, like, woo. And from the outside, you just see the bear. It's hilarious. I love stuff that's whimsical.
Yeah, that is.
And there's some stuff that's
in Central Park. There's a bike loop. And there's one uphill grade where everybody slows down because it's, it's steep and you're going up and you're sweating. And there's a statue of a puma crouched on a rock.
Oh, that's hilarious. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to, that'd be an interesting show talking about art and how it can be controversial, but we'll make that.
Let's talk about, we'll talk about controversial cartooning. We can get into sort of a bestiary of some of the most famous controversial cartoons in, let's say, the last few decades, and what makes a cartoon controversial, what they have in common.
And some of them make them controversial. Such bullshit. It'll make your eyes, especially recently, And
then sort of how papers and syndicates handle controversial cartooning.
Well, let me jump in on that real quick, just because it's a recent story. So I never asked you, Ted, so that Ted doesn't know this is coming. Adam Ziegler, the cartoonist in Buffalo, New York, did a cartoon that pissed off some MAGA types, and they sent some threatening stuff. He was opening an exhibit of his work there in Buffalo, and they canceled the show. Now, Ted, let me ask you: in this day and age, and God knows you, is there anyone on the planet you haven't pissed off? No, that's true. Actually, before we met, I hated your work and hated you, because I thought your work was provocative for no reason. Then I met you and I realized, there is intelligence behind this. But in terms of the Ziegler exhibit, would you have canceled it? Would you have canceled your show? I wouldn't.
No, because I have an X and a Y chromosome, Scott. So no, I would not have. I mean, and look, I've gotten death threats. If you do this job, you get death threats. I got a death threat, 4 of them, last week, over something I wrote about Israel. Shocking. So I think that, look, obviously Adam Ziegler's had to decide what he wants to do. He has a family, he has his own personal safety to consider. So that said, it's his decision, but I think he wussed out. I mean, it's first of all, most people who threaten to kill you don't warn you. They're not going to kill you. And the people who are going to kill you aren't going to warn you. So maybe if you don't get a death threat for your appearance, that's when you should cancel your appearance. It literally is impossible to know. It's no way to live. And, if you're really that worried, maybe hire security. I went in the run up to the invasion of Iraq. I did a huge appearance in Charlottesville, Virginia, at a town hall type scenario. And there were like over 500 attendees, but they got so many death threats there that they ended up having the local police set up metal detectors. And I had the men in blue, one on each side of the stage while I was talking. And I was well aware of the fact that I was in a Second Amendment friendly state. But it's kind of like, if someone's going to do what they're going to do, they're going to do what they're going to do, and fuck them. And honestly, look at Donald Trump. I mean, he was shot. He was back on the campaign trail a week later. It's like you just can't live like that. So
no.
I think it's kind of like, I don't know. It's just, then you let the terrorists win. I'm against it.
Well, it's sort of like, do you remember the exhibit in Texas they had years ago of the Dutch publication, the Muhammad cartoons, and this woman who did it to be provocative said, "Screw them. We have freedom of speech in this country, and I'm going to show the cartoons." And she had an exhibition, and then two Muslim extremists decided to show up. Now, if you're going to show up with guns anywhere in this country, Texas would be the last place I would have gone.
Gardner, Texas. I remember it very well for personal reasons.
Well, can you expand on that? Or
yeah, so basically, this was a conservative appearance. I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't invited. It wasn't anything like that. But yeah, two guys from ISIS showed up with long guns to this appearance. But because it was a show that was put on by right-wingers, they had hired private security with long guns, and they killed the two guys when they showed up. So
they didn't even get 100 yards of the building.
This is me, leftist Ted Rall, saying I would rather be invited to talks sponsored by right-wing Republicans than by left-wing Democrats, because they will have better security. Okay, so that said, when that all went down, I got a call from my local FBI agent informing me that that after this incident, shortly after this incident, jihadi websites and Usenet groups were very excited, and they said, "Oh, this is so great! What other American cartoonists can we kill?" And they didn't do it like in any kind of scientific way, like let's find the ones who are the most anti-Islamist or whatever. Like they were just like, let's just find cartoonists. And so they did it the way Trump deports people, basically. No order of priority. Like whoever, oh, you've been here 30 years and you're a veteran and you're a mom, whatever. So that's what they did. And my name and our colleague Matt Bohr's name came up on top of the list. So the FBI reached out to say that we were incredible threat for our lives, and offered protection. So yeah, the Gardner, Texas thing, I remember. Oh yeah, 100%.
What did they do? What was the protection?
Well, basically, I lived in a town that had a special squad of cops dedicated to this. So the FBI liaised with the town to park a black and white at the end of my street and check IDs of everyone who came and gone. They stationed a cop in the backyard 24/7. They were there for a month. My neighbors were so happy. I thought about getting big bitey dogs. I got motion detectors for my house, all that stuff.
We had. Why is it the police think that a month is that's the attention span of people who want to kill you?
I think it's their attention span. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a guy for a month, a cop, drove with me, looked at my car before I started it, did the mirror and all that stuff. But don't forget that when I had my really credible death threat, it was in Arizona, and they had blown up a reporter about 12 years previously.
Oh, and that's just next door to Colorado, where they blew up that liberal. Tom, what was his name?
I can't remember his name, but you're right. So you can't live in fear, and you just got to say screw them. I mean, there has to be an element of fuck you. Totally. And I'm going to die. I mean, the chances are 100%. I don't want it to be at the hands of someone with a flamethrower drone, but if that's the case, that's the case. But I have to, and that's the whole thing about the Charlie Hebdo or the, the Dutch cartoons. I thought there, not one newspaper in America ran those cartoons.
No, that's true. And frankly, when we have a news story about a controversial cartoon, it's helpful to see the cartoon. It is a visual medium.
Yes.
We have a question here from Juan Don. How would you compare threats to cartoons and threats to comedians? I mean,
Same.
I don't know. It's the same. I think it's the same thing, basically. Yeah.
Although comedians, they have to go through another filter. I mean, they have to go through, if you're a club owner in Birmingham, Alabama, or, Dayton, Ohio, or Sacramento, California, would you risk having, that comedian in your establishment, knowing that he or she has this kind of mark on their back?
On the other hand, if you have you can also, in a club, you can really control entrance and egress. You can set up a metal detector. You can have security. It's really easy, really. And you could have your comedian come and go from a separate entrance. I mean, I think it'd be pretty easy to control security, but I don't know what they would. You're right, Scott. I mean, there's not a lot of courage in America today.
Would you?
Scott,
I mean, real quick, last stories is that, have you ever had to call your partner or any family member to say, "Watch out, we have a credible threat"?
Yeah,
I've had to do that.
That
sucks. No, that sucks, because you and I signed up for this. We know we're high profile assholes who are going to piss people off.
That's true.
That's the job description.
That's right.
And so, someone calls and says, I'm going, and we've had calls. I've had calls. You've had calls that say, I'm going to blow your brains out. Okay.
Yeah. No, and I've had, I had calls where a guy who said, I was married at the time and I had a kid, and he's like, I'm going to come and I'm going to slit your child's throat and slit your wife's throat in front of you. That's not a good feeling. He was ultimately caught. I agree with you, Scott. It's totally like, this is on me. If I draw a cartoon and I get myself killed, I knew what was involved. It's not right. For the record, I don't approve of this message.
Yes.
Please don't. Appreciate it a lot if you didn't. But leave my family out of it. Yeah, exactly. So on that, can we talk about something that kind of grabbed my attention this morning? It's something I've talked about. The New York Times woke up one morning and was shocked to learn that not everybody loves mainstream Democrats. They were looking and breaking down the numbers did you read the story, Ted? Have you read it? Mm-hmm. I did.
I hate how much can you put into a news story these days. This guy did a study and said, so I did a deep dive into this study. I'm just like, that's a pet peeve of mine, Ted, is that this whole me insertion into almost every news story now. It's annoying. And it's also,
I agree.
From my very old man perspective of journalism.
Maybe the California Post will not do that.
Yeah, of course. But minority voters are turning conservative, and they're turning conservative. If I may just launch into a very brief, and I recognize this is allegorical from the face of it, but I think it's relevant and applicable here. We were going to a friend's who was opening up a meadery. How Caucasian is that? in Beverly, which is a southern suburb of Chicago, and my wife and I are, what's the word I'm looking for, Ted? Stupid. And didn't realize that you could take a metro train down there and it would let you off literally half a block from the meadery. So we thought we'd never used it before. And we had some friends with us, so out of town friends. So we said, well, let's just take the bus.
What?
Yeah. So we took the bus from
all New Yorkers will tell you, never take the bus.
Well, especially in Chicago when it goes through the South Side, which is by far the poorest, grinding poverty down that way. And what shocked me was this was in the winter, and that how, I live in the Loop, and the roads are plowed. The sidewalks are shoveled. Everything is very navigable. As soon as we got outside the Loop and we're heading down south, the conditions of the people were living in got worse and worse and worse. And I could not understand, how do you keep reelecting an alderman when they allow this to happen to where you live? This is your life. The sidewalks still had like 8 inches of snow on them. And this is a week after the storm went through. The streets were not plowed. And I kept thinking, this is how revolutions happen. This is how conservatives can come in and say, listen, your guy's not doing his job. And in fact,
but let's talk about we should talk about the main thesis of the story, right? I mean, the main thesis of the story that you sent me in the New York Times was that up to and through Obama, blacks in particular, but also Latinos, were reliably Democratic voters.
Yes.
Bill Clinton, I think, enjoyed like a 90+% black voter support for him. Numbers were always a little fuzzier with Latinos. It was understood that certain ethnic groups there among Hispanics were more conservative than others. But now it's very clear that it's a permanent drift away from Democrats. Certainly, the numbers of blacks that Democrats can count on in a presidential election is closer to like the 60s, maybe 70%. That's a drastic decline. Latinos, maybe they may not even have a majority. That might be a Republican thing entirely.
And Asian voters
are certainly they're become Republican. And so there's been a bunch of these stories that basically that shine a spotlight on this. This one was trying to figure out why. I don't think it succeeded in figuring out.
Oh, you don't?
Why.
Oh, I do.
But okay, go ahead.
I absolutely can. And that's why I mentioned the bus ride, because for years, the New Deal coalition, which included minorities, and they were reliably Democratic voters, is that they've been voting for these people for 20, 30 years, and nothing's gotten better. The schools still suck. The snows don't get plowed, and the streets are just as dangerous as they were 20 years ago. They've been fed this promise, and frankly, the Democratic Party has drifted away, and I blame the Clintons. That was the beginning in 92. To drift away from and actually service those communities that they don't. Why would I vote for someone who just says, just vote for me, and doesn't provide the services or doesn't improve my life or the life of my family at all? And that's why I'm looking at San Francisco, Los Angeles. I'm looking at the possible success of a California Post, because they're going to address those issues directly. It's the reason that of all people, of all people, Donald Trump speaks to those groups, because he at least acknowledges them. And now it's just taken for granted. They also, some of the people who are questions that the identity politics is fine, but it doesn't really get you anything. It doesn't plow your streets. It doesn't pick up your garbage. It doesn't improve your schools. So they're going, well, screw this. This other group is at least going to have more cops. They're going to make life a little cheaper to live. Chicago's a great example. They're upping property taxes again. Well, if you bought a house in Pinson, which is an overwhelmingly Latino community, those houses, as you know, Ted, have gone from, they could have been bought for $200,000 now, or $600,000 and $700,000 homes. Well, the city's going to assess that. They're not going to wait and say, oh, well, gee, Mrs. Lopez, your property now has tripled, which means your property taxes will triple. I think it's issues like that. I think you disagree. So go ahead and disagree.
So look, I don't disagree. I think you're right that that's what's going on. But what I'm not understanding really, and I suspect that a lot of Democrats feel this way. I don't normally really agree with them about, anything, but I think that in this particular case, okay, so they're saying, look, we look at our community and we say, what the fuck have you Democrats done for us? We're still living in squalor. Like you said, all the things you just said. Our lives suck. The Asian store owners who were interviewed in the article pointed out that like criminals come in and shoplift from their stores with abandon, and it feels like there's no end in sight to it. That's not really a new complaint. Think about like the tensions in Harlem between Korean greengrocers and local residents back in the 90s and 80s. Think about like the LA riots when the Korean store owners were up on the roof of their stores with shotguns and long guns and all that. So that said, okay, I get all that. Democrats promised that they would take care of you, they'd care about you, they love you, and then they only come around looking for your votes, and then you don't hear from them for the next 2 to 4 years. That's all 100% true. But the thing is, I also look at it like, what have Republicans ever done for you either?
Well,
nothing. They're not even promising anything. They're like basically like, well, we might round up your friend if their paperwork isn't quite in order. We might round them up if it is in order. We might round them up if they're a U.S. citizen. I mean, it's like Republicans don't do anything for these communities either, and they use a lot of racist dog whistles. I mean, this week as we speak, Trump has just ordered a statue of a Confederate general that was toppled during BLM 5 years ago to go back up in D.C. It's like, you know what I mean? Like if you're black, you can't be thinking these guys like me or care about me. They're a bunch of racist assholes. So that's the part that I don't get. If the story was the black community is alienated from both major parties and is drifting away and is either going to third parties or not voting, I would completely understand this article. I don't understand, like, why on earth would you go and vote and support and work for Donald Trump? I kept looking for, it's sort of like these articles that you read about, like, oh, the anti-Semitism in American college campuses. And then I'm like, okay, hopefully there's an incident that there's actually going to be referred to where someone actually did something anti-Semitic. And then there isn't. This is like one of those articles. This was the same kind of thing. Like, okay, so mainly blacks, but also Latinos and Asians. They were all well represented in the article. They're all like, I'm voting for Donald Trump and the Republicans because the Democrats don't care about me. But I'm like, true, but the Republicans don't either. So is this just like basically a version of the two-party trap where to send a message to the party that bugs you, you vote for the other party. You're not really voting for them. You're just voting against the party that's annoying you more. Or I know I'm missing something here, Scott. Please help me.
I think, because I don't know that all the Republicans are all racists. I think they give you an agenda that is, bootstrap, independent. I'm just saying this is and you're right about, why in the world? I mean, Donald Trump insists that the Washington Commanders change their name back to Redskins. I mean, it's, first of all, shut up. It's don't you have other things to worry about? And two, putting the statue of a Confederate general, a traitor, back up in Washington, D.C. is sheer insanity. And you know what he's doing. You know who what audience he's playing to.
Right.
But there's also a large number of conservatives who are not racist, and I would count myself among them, who would say that the conservative agenda, as I perceive it, and as I have always perceived it, is that this is a way for you to succeed. The Democratic or more statist, the more socialist, the more statist, the more interventionist kind of government is been a catastrophe. I think that's part of what they see, and that's what I mentioned on my bus ride. They see a government that tells them that they're important, give us your vote, and then doesn't do anything for them. Their hope is that, yes, Ted, to your point, half of it is fuck you to the Democratic Party, fuck you to the left who says they love us and don't do anything to help our lives. But the other half is there's some appeal, especially in America, to a libertarian, free market, laissez-faire approach to life and to living that life and getting the government the hell out of it. So it's probably a combination of both.
By your bootstraps. It's also, in many cases, I think these are people who feel like no one's ever done anything for them, and they don't like the idea that, like, that same government that's never helped them out when they wanted to start a store or send their kid to college is helping out their, like, illegal immigrants, for example.
There was a lot of rage in the story about that.
Spending a lot of time worried about trans women athletes and stuff like that.
Well, and that's the other thing is that their attention seems to be drawn to things that aren't all that important. The four people who were born male want to compete as women. It's not that big of an issue. Especially when you're scared shitless that your kid's walking down the street coming home from school and they're going to get shot. I mean, it really is the identity politics balanced against, and you can have this is what drives me crazy about this whole issue is you can hold more than one thought in your head at a time. It really is possible.
Is it really?
I know.
I'm sure that's true.
You look cynical, but it is true. You can have the identity politics in there, but you have to. That's why I thought the Democrats running in 26, and I think they're going to get hammered. I think they're going to, every Democrat is expecting a blue wave, and it ain't going to happen. For this very reason.
Well, not to mention there's shenanigans going on with redistricting in places like Texas, right? Where they think they're going to pick up 5 new seats.
But California is trying the same thing. Newsom's trying to hammer through a quick, getting rid of the scientific redistricting and come back to political redistricting. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is coming out and saying, no, we're keeping
in Illinois, Pritzker wants to do the same thing. And in New York, Hochul wants to do the same thing. So basically, everybody's just going to cheat together. Awesome.
Yeah, that's the response. That should be your response. If you catch your kid cheating, say, okay, well, I'm going to cheat too. I'll show you. We're children. We're a nation of children, Ted. This makes me crazy.
Well, you're not wrong. So I guess the thing is, though, but so seriously though, but what are, so I just want to be clear here. Black people aren't really getting anything out of the Republicans. Is it more a sense of like, maybe a feeling of belonging? Like, I think
that's a big part of it. Look who's in power. Look whose power is in. The other thing is, obviously, look whose power is in the ascent, and that's the Republican Party. And it
means I've arrived. If I'm part of the establishment, then by definition, I've arrived.
And let's be honest, the establishment has all the money, which means they have all the good stuff. I want good stuff.
True.
I totally understand.
By definition.
Yeah, I understand that motivation. So we'll keep an eye on that. But we've jammed.
I don't know if I were Republican, that I would take a lot of comfort in the idea that that basically minorities are leaving the Democrats. I think what this, to me, come around full circle in the same way that the California Post sees an opportunity by the power vacuum created by the legacy media in Southern California. I think a third party could see an opportunity created here to create a new populist movement that might even synthesize the working class on the left and right, and sort of basically be not anti-woke, just not focused on woke,
from your mouth to God's ears. I would love that.
Domestic, financial, focus on America first, focus on taking care of workers and American families first. Common sense stuff like you do control your borders because you are a nation state. Stuff like that. You're not against, you're not against trans people being themselves and living their full lives. And you defend, and if they get attacked, you defend them. But it's not all you talk about.
Let me real quick, and then we got to say goodbye. But I haven't asked you this question. I've been dying to ask you and I always forget, and now I've remembered. Pat Buchanan, 1992, running on the Reform Party. Did you agree with him on closing because it really does reflect what Trump is now doing, which is close the borders.
You can find columns that I wrote. I'm going to dig them up. You can find columns that I wrote during the Clinton years in the 90s. Calling for a closed border, and on the grounds that that open borders depress American wages.
No, I was talking about markets, and trying to repeal NAFTA, for instance.
Well, of course, you know how I feel about NAFTA. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. You can't be from Dayton. I've never met anyone and that should say something. I've never met anyone from Southwestern Ohio who thinks that NAFTA is anything other than an abomination. Democrat, Republican, union, boss, no one. They all hate it. It's basically they're roughly on par with pedophiles. NAFTA should never have been passed. It's a fucking obscenity. The idea of free trade is not necessarily bad, but in my view, these negotiations, it's all about the execution. It should have been negotiated to prioritize the environment, to protect American jobs. For sure, engage in trade with Mexico, Canada, and other countries as it benefits us mutually. But it should never, literally, President Clinton literally argued that, yes, we were going to lose jobs, but it was going to be good overall from a global perspective because so many jobs would have been created in Mexico. He said that. I mean, in public. I mean, you're the president of the United States. You're not the president of North America, you asshole. You know?
Okay. Question answered.
The job of the president of the United States is to protect the interests of the people of the United States. In my opinion.
Okay. I've always meant to ask you. Now I know. All right.
Indeed,
so
you do.
We're going to do that.
All right. Always a pleasure.
As always.
As always, thank you so much for watching the DMZ America podcast with me, Ted Rall. That over there is Scott Stantis. We're here roughly once a week. When who knows? So please follow, and share the show. We're here on Rumble and YouTube, and we appreciate all of you guys. Take care. Oh, we're going to do the closing.
Yes, we are.
It's time. It's time for the singing time.
And this is my grandson's favorite. It's on heavy rotation in the car with.
Here we go.
So here. Well, Ted